City of Stevens Point Age-Friendly Commission meeting, recorded May 21st, 2025.
So we got 5:01 p.m. So in the absence of the chair and vice chair, I'll call the May 21st, 2025 meeting of the Age-Friendly Commission. We'll start with the roll call. Giblin is excused. Wigginton is excused. Agana?
Here.
Douglas, I don't see at the moment. Iverson?
Here.
Jury?
Here.
And Livernish?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Wall, I don't see. And then Zarazua.
Here.
All right, by the thinnest of margins, we got a quorum. So, before we get to item number 2, obviously in the absence of both a chair and a vice chair, we will need to entertain nominations to appoint one of y'all as temporary chair for this meeting. So don't all go one.
I nominate Commissioner Zarazu.
Yes. Do you accept?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other nominations? All right, all those in favor of nominating Commissioner Zarazua as the temporary chairperson of the March 25th, 2025 meeting of the Age-Friendly Commission, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? This is your circus.
Okay. Item number 2, report of the March 25th, 2025 meeting of the Age-Friendly Commission. Do we have any questions, concerns, corrections? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the report.
I move to approve.
Second. Okay. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? And that passes. Item number 3, refinement of housing and transportation recommendations for the Stevens Point Aging Plan.
All right, so last time that we met in late March, we went through the first review of the housing and transportation policy recommendations. Included in the packet for today is really the next draft, the second version of this updated list of policies. It wasn't a whole lot of major changes, just some minor tweaks more than anything. The one thing I will say that's kind of handy, coincidental in terms of timing, is I mentioned last month, I believe, that city's going through zoning code rewrite. Last night I had our first public informational meeting for the zoning code rewrite, really trying to understand the overall vision of what folks want to see as it relates to housing, transportation, environmental and natural resources, to name a few examples. And housing was definitely one of the more talked about areas. I actually did pull, I'll actually pull it now just to, these were a list of questions that I had as questions that was included as part of a poll during the public informational meeting, and I'll have through each of the remaining 12 or 13 hymns throughout this spring, summer, and fall. Really try to get some consistency with how folks respond to each of the same questions. The ones pertaining to housing that I thought was pretty interesting, so it'll be the next few slides. The first one being like, hey, here's a list of different types of housing. What do you see as ones that you want to see more of in the city going forward? And I think, single family, not really surprising. That's a conversation that you hear time and time again. Mm-hmm. The ones that I thought were interesting was the tiny homes and accessory dwelling units. I'll say this is just survey responses from one public informational meeting focusing solely on the north side. Once we get through other areas of the city, these numbers I'm sure will fluctuate in some capacity, but the tiny homes and the ADUs, especially through some off-bar conversations, that was definitely the focus point. encourage the construction of more tiny homes less than the 900 square foot minimum that we require right now per our development code. And then accessory dwelling units, this was something that was kind of top of mind for me because kind of looking ahead, there was a bill that was proposed in the state legislature, I think within the last month or so, basically placing some prohibitions for how municipalities regulate accessory dwelling units. I won't go into the details of it, but what it effectively says is that a municipality would not be able to regulate the construction of an ADU at more than what it would take to construct a single-family home. That basically the regulations to construct a new single-family home have to be similar to that of an accessory dwelling unit. I don't know what's going to come about of that. Obviously, it could pass, and we'll be faced with the task of updating our ADU ordinance because of state statute, or conversely, that bill might just not come to fruition at all. But needless to say, I mean, there's obviously talk going on down in the state legislature, so it's something to be mindful of to see if that does progress forward, if there are support through obviously the legislators and certain advocacy groups that, just something to be mindful of, not only for the zoning code, but obviously for the aging. So, needless to say, to kind of summarize, the responses that I received yesterday, I think some of these do go hand in hand with the housing recommendations that, housing policy recommendations that's included on page 5 of the packet, really incentivizing some of the zoning, or really prioritizing some of the zoning code changes you see under the second section, second bullet point. So really what I want to focus on for this housing and transportation sections here is there any, really highlight if there's any fine tuning that's needed, any additional comments that commissioners have, questions that you folks have. If not, really I'll treat this as locked in, so to speak, so that I can carry that over to this draft final plan and kind of get the ball moving on it. So is there any commentary that folks have with the housing policy recommendations included in the packet?
How many people responded to that poll?
Here was about, for the north side, it was about 30.
Okay.
Which, I mean, personally, I kind of expected there would have been more people, if I'm going to be honest, for that first informational meeting. I'll say too, this, when I mean the north side, this was geared towards really just your district, your former district, Akira, with properties south of Maria Drive. So west of First Street, south of Maria Drive. So not the entirety of the downtown, not the entirety of the north side rather, but a significant swath of the population nonetheless.
Okay. Any other questions?
Concerns or anything that you folks want to see changed? Okay. And then the transportation one, again, still focusing on the three really main areas here, main areas of emphasis: education, infrastructure, and programming. Really the same question for this one too. Is there any clarifying questions that folks have or changes that you want to see before we lock it in, so to speak? I'll say, at least for the transportation one, that was another item of emphasis, at least last night, where more so with the, which I guess I kind of anticipated more so from the pedestrian side of things than the bicyclist side of things, in terms of trying to close certain gaps that we do have within our pedestrian network, and trying to prioritize where we identify pedestrian crossings for some of our higher trafficked streets. On the north side, at least yesterday, there was some talk about Franklin Street. There were some talks about Crosby Ave, I believe. So kind of the expected corridors where there's more pedestrian traffic. So.
Are you looking for a motion from us? Do you need?
No, I wouldn't need a motion. Just if there's just a general acceptance or not.
No.
So.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Cool.
All right, item number 4 is introduction of draft outdoor spaces and buildings recommendations for the Stevens Point Aging Plan.
Yeah, so this will be a similar exercise as what we did last time. So this section will focus on, as the chair mentioned, outdoor spaces and buildings. This, by and large, will be focusing more on the park system that we have here in the city. What I will say is really the intent behind this conversation is to try to flush out some of the details and flush out the vision of what you as a commission want to see within some of these bullet point items that we have, and I'll expand a little bit about it in a minute. But so the first bullet point is talking specifically about the city's comprehensive outdoor and recreation plan. This is a plan that we update every 5 years. It's really the master plan for the city's park system. City's not unique in terms of creating a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. This is something that practically every community is, and I believe on the county level, they do a similar plan. So some of the sub-bullet points here in terms of policy recommendations to include when updating the next corp plan, which will be in, I believe, about 2 years from now. That will be to, 1, improve the safety of our park infrastructure by prioritizing level walking paths and non-glare paving surfaces. 2 being for some of our more utilized parks to install ramps and railings along the high traffic corridors within the park. 3 being to encourage greater usage of park for older residents by prioritizing shaded areas within the parks using either landscaping or shade structures. Number 4 being to identify parks that have the greatest need for seating accommodations and then come up with kind of a next step forward to try to provide those accommodations within the park. And then the last one being, and this is more, for sure, probably the most long-ranging recommendation, that being to identify an existing park to serve as a pilot for installing universal design park infrastructure that can be utilized by people of all abilities. So I guess to have a conversation with this one, some of the things that I want to square away is, I think you folks have a general understanding of the city's park system. I'm sure you've walked or leisured within a few parks over the years. Is there any parks within the city that comes to mind that you see as, we'll start with the first bullet point that maybe doesn't have as clear walking path or as clear paths within the park that you want to have it be a little bit more accented for where pedestrian traffic should be located in there. Is there any park that comes to mind? And if not, that's okay. Really, my goal is for any plan, you want to find that balance of not being too detailed, too specific, so that it really hamstrings the municipality in this case from achieving said goal, but you don't want it to be too vague that it really leaves it up to interpretation for how the community goes forward with achieving that goal. Mm-hmm. So if are there any specific parks that come to mind where you've walked in the past but you don't necessarily know where the designated path of travel is?
Iverson, maybe? I don't know. There's a lot of green space, but I don't know about paths.
Or or the bridges and.
Okay.
At Iverson, yeah.
Okay.
I guess maybe if folks can ponder on that a little bit. We want to prioritize the third bullet point here where it talks about encouraging basically providing shaded areas. Are there certain parks that come to mind that you've visited in the past that you think, man, it would be cool if we have some shaded areas because that's not already provided? Are there certain parks that come to mind? Clearly, there's some. I'm thinking of Buchholz, I'm thinking of Hiverson, where it's
Yeah.
clearly not an issue because there's a lot of natural vegetation
Yeah.
already, but
Trees and some structures and, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess would like where the band shell is, I mean, it's not very shaded there. I mean, there's trees along the edge of it, but, and I don't know if that would be doable to put shade in the middle somewhere. I know there's tents and stuff. I'm just looking at some of the parks.
What do you think along the Green Circle Trail? If that would be another option? I mean, it's a little
Oh,
bit
yeah,
set
that's
back
true,
from
yeah.
the band shell. but-
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, it's shaded there, but
And there is one structure along the river there, right? In
Yeah,
Pefferman.
yeah, yeah.
A little
oh,
gazebo.
true, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just to the north.
Yep.
Or any neighborhood parks that come to mind?
Sarah-
Yeah, well, it's pretty shaded, pretty sunny. I
Open,
think it's just
yes.
open, yeah.
I don't think there's any structure or anything there. It's a neighborhood park, so I don't know how utilized it would be, but
I'll say, I know so that was our first neighborhood that was focused on for the comprehensive plan rewrite, and that Atwell Park was definitely a major theme through those conversations of wanting to basically provide more accommodations within the park, encourage more
develop a
community
little.
events. I mean, there was talk, obviously, at the time about installing a public restroom within the park, and I think that definitely would be one area to look at, so.
yeah. I'm thinking something even simple, like at Mead, they have just a simple structure there and that I think is pretty well utilized. If there were something like a little, just small shelter house, it wouldn't have to be anything massive.
Yeah. Any other ones, at least for the shaded part, any other parks that come to mind that you'd like a little bit more, or at least me to do a little bit more deep diving on?
We are Tree City, USA. We do a good job with.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's a good point, Makira, is, for a lot of things, it's not that we're being negligent. We're not achieving that. We're in a pretty good, our floor is pretty good, right? Obviously, there's always ways to improve, so.
We're just saying plans should include all of these things also.
Yeah.
So the next bullet point, so focusing on parks with the need for additional seating accommodations. Are there any parks that come to mind? Really here I would prioritize parks that have greater usage. Really, those that have greater usage should then in turn provide more seating accommodations, if not already. So I guess, do you think really the more trafficked parks, your Buchholz, your Iversons, that those should be a priority, or are there other parks that maybe not as utilized but should be prioritized for this?
Is there much seating in the sculpture park?
I think there's a few. I should.
I want to say there might not be.
There's the giant bench.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
probably
the
not
giant
eight
bench.
Climb up
Right.
there.
An
You
open
can sit on
person's
that
not
one.
going to get it. You have to hoist them to the giant bench. But like sculpture park kind of pops out for seating. If that's part of a park. Is Plover River Park the one? No. Where's that one? Plover River Park.
Should know. Let me look it up.
Patch Street. It's off of Patch Street.
Oh, just yeah. Oh. There we go. Yeah, that's just east of McDill. So you have McDill, Hirschner's, kind of right down in the middle.
Got it.
Just behind Fire Station 2.
Yep. Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's been a part that was talked about too for one of the comprehensive plan updates, was prioritizing the walkability within Plover River, within that park, because it's, you know, a lot of the residents in that area, you know, quoting them exactly, said it was a hidden gem, that it's not publicized so much.
Yeah.
That if you could try to accent where the entrances into the parks, into the park is, and providing those accommodations, that could at least spur more usage for folks who live kind of along Leahy, Heffron, down in that area.
Kind of like with Parkwood Park too. That one's kind of a
100%.
hidden gem too.
Yeah.
I forget that's that back there. That's the one on McDill.
Okay, any other ones? Okay, and then the last one, so this, as I mentioned earlier, is more of a long-range goal, is to identify a park to serve as a pilot for installing universal design infrastructure. So this is a strategy that a number of communities have been toying with over the years. I believe City of Green Bay, or one of the burbs, but I'm almost positive it's City of Green Bay. They partnered with the Brown County ADRC to create a dementia-friendly park. What I would like, at least some clarification from you folks, is when we talk about universal design park infrastructure, it's a pretty wide umbrella of what that means. You know, you could talk about signage, you could talk about paths that we talked about earlier. You could talk about physical infrastructure, like you know, if you're creating a tennis court or a basketball court, that you have the specific type of material that's more sensitive for folks who are maybe not as good on their legs, for example. So I guess if you folks are generally interested in pursuing this policy further, is there a certain type of infrastructure that you think should be prioritized? Is it signage? Is it more of the marketing and communication piece of how we advertise a park? Is it hardscaped infrastructure, the transportation piece within a park, or is it the actual big, full-fledged infrastructure? Is there anything that comes to mind as projects that should be prioritized?
Bucco, Piffner, Mead, the whole Central Park. I mean, there's so many activities going on there, and 8/10 of a mile of paved trail, and I think a plan for 4/10 of a mile over on the Mead side connected by the bridge, so you're walking seniors on a paved trail the whole way, by water the whole way, baby buggies. I mean, and then just think of all the things that are along there where people can enjoy watching other people. So
Right.
that's as much as Iverson or Bucco, that I think the downtown park is a gem waiting to be had.
Agreed.
Any other thoughts about either specific parks or specific types of infrastructure? You know, I know you folks are all coming in to your role here on this commission with different backgrounds, but I guess, is there a certain type of, I guess, a cool project that you'd like to test out within a park that you think would be beneficial for your profession?
Is there like any other plans or existing data like from the city or county? Like I'm thinking about like the CHIP or like some of the different plans that exist already that would help us figure out how to prioritize what those different projects could be.
At least for the.
Just like thinking about like who the populations are that we're trying to serve through that project that would happen in whichever park we choose.
Yeah, I can have Lydia in a little bit talk about the chip since I see you pull that out.
I don't know if there's anything in there,
But
but.
yeah, what I'll say is, at least through the city core plan, we don't specifically identify that. In the county core plan, I'm not as positive on that, but I don't believe they reference specific types of infrastructure. Because really, this concept of a universal design park is really new to this area. I don't even believe Wausau area has an example like that. Could be wrong, but so in a way, we're starting from scratch, but we're trying to be the trailblazers in our area. But needless to say, I mean, one thing I could do if there's interest for the group is I could provide like some imagery from other parks in the state or wherever that highlights, you know, this is what a universal design park looks like. Or actually, I could do that right now I could do that right now since we're here.
Yeah, I think like seeing some examples of different projects,
Universal
we would
design
know.
park.
Like, hey, that'd be cool.
or that would work here
Yeah.
based on the population that's in the area, or
Because like Mead Park, I think is, or Cash Park is like a good
Cash is the
example.
playground, Mead is the park.
So the playground in Mead.
Mead Park.
Yes, yes. So is kind of would be an example in my head. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, so I think this actually is a good this website does look familiar because I saw this earlier a few weeks or months ago when I was working on this. So this identifies some of the different types of infrastructure that you could prioritize. So one option here, the first one talks about for parks that have restroom accommodations, that really the location and the location of the restroom within the park and access to the bathroom itself would be something to be considered. Another area would be focusing on what seating and accommodations are provided within the park, and you know, I think this is definitely pie in the sky type of infrastructure that you want to prioritize, but making sure that the seating itself is ADA compliant, that the paths that you have is wide enough and of abled surface material. Another example is talking about the types of trees that you install and the types of light fixtures that you install. In this case, trying to make sure that the light fixtures are not too tall, that they're maybe 8-10 feet in tall, maybe 10 feet in height versus 30 feet like what you see along a highway. So that would be one example. Here they have multi-sensory wayfinding as one example, and then really options for if you want to have safe water or safe drinking water, where those accommodations would be located. So the tough part with this is really how do you limit, how do you hone in the specific type of infrastructure that you want to prioritize? You know, I think when we generally think of infrastructure, it's these, you know, your slides, your pools, your tennis courts, basketball courts, stuff like that. But obviously, as folks know, there's more than that that makes up a park. So does that help a little bit?
I don't know.
That's fair.
It's like a big vague concept right now, right?
Right.
So that's the hard part, is we don't know what the options are yet.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? Is this generally a policy recommendation that you're interested in exploring more? Or do you think, yeah, maybe we should prioritize something else?
I mean, I think the way it's worded is just saying to identify a park that could be a pilot. It's not saying like we have to do, it's saying start looking at what that would look like for a park,
Yeah.
which I think is fair.
Yeah, agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I heard you like marketing, like doing market, and that's kind of fits in the CHIP, and I'll let Lydia kind of
Yeah.
speak upon that.
So the Portage County CHIP is current from 2024 to 2028, and one of our priorities is an equitable opportunity to be healthy with the objective of increasing the utilization of current public spaces for use by community members. So that's where a lot of this can really fit. Some of that was identified that you can tie it back to your physical well-being, your mental health, and then your social connection as well. And so I think those are a lot of different aspects that we can consider with some of this. I was looking for some of like our hard data points of how we got to that point. I don't see them right now off the top of my head. It was looking at Portage County as a whole when we do these assessments, though, so you got to remember that it's not just within the city. But one point that we did have in this document is that more than 90% of the survey respondents strongly agreed that they were satisfied with the area parks and recreation within the county. So I think that speaks to, yes, they're great, and how can we continue to maybe make them a little bit more for that other 10% of those people. And I don't know what that 10% is saying, like why they feel that way, but.
Yeah.
Just one piece within this, and I know we live in Wisconsin, we have winter, but I know something that comes up is like, I know we've worked on having the walkway cleared along the river, but then like the bathroom accessibility thing is an issue because we don't have our bathrooms open in the winter. And so if there is any way around that, that would allow there to be more access to bathrooms if people are using the parks in the winter.
Is it all pathways for like all parks that are cleared, or are there select ones? Okay, so what is that like for marketing in the winter then, of like what locations are available for utilization during winter?
And it was just the river walkway that was cleared this year for the first time, right?
To my knowledge, yeah.
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 Did that work out okay? Do we know?
I mean, I've heard a lot of people excited that it was
Yeah.
cleared over the last winter, so as far as I know, there were not any.
I heard a lot of positive, yeah.
It was great.
Because it was, I mean, I live close to downtown, so I walk. It was nice. It was nice to have it cleared for winter. Yeah, because you get a
I was
nice.
just gonna say, we didn't have a crazy winter.
Yeah. But even so, like, even on like a nice sunny day, you like want to go and walk along the river, but if you know it's snow covered, yeah, you kind of avoid it, fortunately. I mean, you expect the green circle,
Yeah.
like the off-road stuff to be not cleared, but.
Yeah. So the next bullet point then, create walking maps to identify preferred routes to city parks within a neighborhood. This concept is pretty similar to a recommendation, I think was in both the Safe Routes to School plan and the bike ped plan on the county level, saying we want to prioritize for every school that's located within city limits, we want to take a look out 1 mile buffer from the school and identify what the preferred routes are if students, in this case for the Safe Routes to School plan, how they can go from their school back to home or their school to any other public amenities located in the area. And so this was really coming in with a similar concept. There's a lot of folks, if you think of your path of destinations where you go from point A to point B, if you're someone who's going to go to a park, odds are you're going to a park from home or from some other location. And so this is kind of where the vantage point that I had in terms of identifying this policy recommendation, thinking specifically about the Plover River crossing. Once that gets going later this year, that would be a very pertinent area to focus, especially with all the folks who live, say, along the Burlowski Road corridor, obviously with all the new housing that's being constructed by the city along that corridor. It'd be a good area to emphasize. And then the last one, so partner with civic organizations to increase the perception of safety within and around the parks. This is I guess, the toughest one to try to address. So the reason I brought this bullet point up, this policy recommendation up, is that was one of the themes taken from the survey data and through some of the small group conversations that I had was, there's some folks that want to utilize our park system, they just don't feel safe utilizing a particular park. At least through the conversations that I've had with folks, my perception is that it tends to be more parks not being lit, that if they were lit, that would be enough right there to encourage them to better utilize a given park. But I guess one thing that I would want clarification from you is better lighting within the park system, is that the only area of emphasis that we should look at, or are there other ones that come to mind? The reason I'm bringing lighting, I'm a little hesitant about applying this lighting principle uniformly across all parks, because you have some parks that are just a neighborhood park, and you have to be super conscious about the intensity of illumination. Not that it's gonna hinder, just really increase the brightness of the surrounding neighborhood. So, Sarah, I think you gotta.
Yeah, and I will probably just say it. I think it's the safety of people being in the parks early in the morning or late at night, the unhoused population, from what I've heard from people. Like, they'll walk along the river and they'll come across someone and not know that they're there. And it sucks because we all know it's an issue. But people, I think, feel unsafe, unfortunately, because of that. So I know I've gone walking Fridays during our gym. We walk along that pathway along the river by the paper mill. And there's people still sleeping on the path at like 7 o'clock in the morning. So I don't know what the solution is, but I think that's maybe where people's unsafety and unease come from. Yeah. So
I feel like I don't know if, thinking about, well lighting neighborhood parks it could be a hindrance on the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But thinking about like where there's clear pathways, like thinking about Piffner and Buchholz, like that section, like that's a pathway. It's not next to a house necessarily or somebody's neighborhood, but that might be a way to prioritize where lighting is where there's a clear path.
like maybe in Iverson. Iverson's not very lit up, I don't think, along like the green circle or, yeah.
And there definitely is, the type of light infrastructure that you install that could help address some of the concerns about light pollution. Thinking, could you even prioritize just floodlights as means to, the light fixtures that are situated level with the ground? That, is that a possibility where it'll help achieve the purpose of if you're somebody walking along a trail that is better lit for them, but it's not necessarily going to disperse out a far distance because it's set, the light apparatus itself is set so close to the ground.
Correct.
So any other thoughts about the, perception of safety within Parks and Trails network? Is there anything else besides lighting that you think is low-hanging fruit? How is one? Definitely that's a
I know,
layer.
I didn't want to have to
layer.
say it, but it's out there, and
Yeah.
everybody's thinking about it, I think, unfortunately, so, yeah.
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 Any other thoughts? Okay. So all these bullet points that we talked about so far, that's kind of under the prong of improving the safety and accessibility of our park system. The next item is focusing more on the buildings component of it, so the city facilities that we have. So 2 bullet points. First one, kind of reiterating some of the previous bullet points that we talked about within the transportation section. So creating and implementing an ADA transition plan to improve all city buildings to meet minimum accessibility standards. And then the second one being to partner with area nonprofits to create an inventory of public amenities throughout the city and identify which amenities are accessible. Obviously, being considerate of how upfront you are about what amenities are and are not, not being too, I guess, obnoxious, but really creating a one-stop shop to say, hey, if you want to attend a community facility for this given purpose, here are the options at your disposal to choose from, and here are the particular locations within that organization serves that would have some accessibility components to it. Is that generally an acceptable or okay policy recommendation to pursue?
That's really, I like it.
Then, just taking a step back then, focusing on outdoor spaces and buildings broadly speaking, is there anything that's missing from what's included on the slide here and in the packet? And if not, or if you think of stuff over the next few days, I mean, obviously you're more than willing to shoot me an email, but I guess for next steps for this item, so what my plan is I already talked with our Parks Director. After I get some of the overarching directives from this commission, once I get that today, obviously, him and I will sit down and try to hone in on some of the specifics. Some of the parks that you referenced for a few of these bullet point items, is that realistic? Is there the opportunity to actually achieve that within the given parks that you outlined? So really the goal will be having a conversation with him and then fleshing out some of the details further for next time.
Would it be thoughtful to think, are all parks accessible from the bus?
Good point.
Yeah, can we get, maybe look at that and see if we can get to them all via public transportation?
I feel like a good amount of them do have a bus
Most of
stop.
them,
Okay.
yeah, most of them are probably about maybe 2 blocks away from a bus.
Okay,
For the most part.
okay. Yeah, just something that I thought of.
I feel like
Yeah, I can double check.
the one where, and it's gonna bug me, so I'm gonna look it up now.
Because it seems like it's been very easy to hey, this isn't accessible by the, Noble, for example. You guys were really accommodating, so was the city. Hey, yeah, now you guys have a bus stop, so.
Yeah,
Thinking
we're
about
always
perks.
looking to redo our
Add.
routes,
Yeah.
and add bus stops.
Yeah.
So the one that I was thinking of was East Oak Park on the east side, so off of Kingfisher, so it's part city park, part county park, that'd be northeast of Fleet.
Yep.
And I don't see anything, at least looking on Google, for not seeing any bus stop emojis or bus stop icons anywhere close there.
Which one is that?
East Oak, so that'd be just northeast of Fleet.
So that's kind of where that new subdivision's going in anyway, too, right?
Yeah, so just across Burlowski.
Yeah.
So the closest one that we would have would be at Dimensions. We have a bus stop there.
Doesn't sound terribly far.
Still a hike.
Yeah.
I do like that goal, though, taking a look at the other parks and see are there gaps within our
Transit center.
public transit network. Okay, anything else? So the next time, just to kind of give a precursor for next time we meet, here I'll focus on, it'll be the second review of the outdoor spaces and buildings, the recommendations we just talked about, and then I'll introduce likely the health services one, and that's something that Sarah, Lydia, I'll want to have a small group convo with you at some point in the next couple of weeks, since this is my area of weakness.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, I don't want to be repetitive with recommendations in the aging plan with what you already have in the CHIP plan.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it would
I
coordinate
would say-
too,
I
so.
think it'll work well
Yeah,
with it,
yeah.
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Cool beans. That is all my end here.
Okay. Item number 5 is to adjourn. Do we have a motion
I move.
and a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed who would like to stay here? With that, the meeting is adjourned at 5:46 PM.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.